Hey Mama, I'm Ashley, and this is the Maverick Mompreneur podcast, where you're free and encouraged to own your desire to create and scale an impactful, discoverable online brand and business in the midst of motherhood. A business that's aligned with your mission, lifestyle desires, personality, and zone of genius without wasting your time on the hustle and grind hamster wheel that is social media. Can I get an amen? Sis, you are a maverick, an original, willing to stand out in your authenticity, defy expectations, and do life and business outside the box. In our world, if it's not aligned with who we are, it's a hard pass or a brave pivot. So if you're here for the powerful identity shift and transformation from boss babe or boss mom to aligned CEO, building a one-of-a-kind, influential, hustle-free online business that will produce long-term impact and multiple streams of income through SEO, affiliate marketing, and courses while building yourself in the process, well, pop in those AirPods, grab that cup of coffee or glass of wine, and let's get growing. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Maverick Mompreneur podcast. I'm your host, Ashley, and I am so glad you're here, whether you're a longtime listener or this is your first episode. I hope you've had a great week. I hope that you are healthy, thriving, all of the good things. I have been so busy this week. I have a masterclass that I'm hosting next week that's new, and so it's taking up a lot more of my time, and needless to say, this episode is coming to you a little bit later in the week than I typically update, but I have a topic that I really do want to talk to you about because I know it hits close to home for many of us, and that is, what the heck do we do with our weaknesses? Should we turn them into strengths? Can we turn them into strengths? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Spoiler alert, it is absolutely possible, as you're going to hear from my personal testimony of this, and that's really what growth mindset is all about. You can, with enough effort and enough time, become really great at things that you are currently weak at, and if it's something that you need in order to get to something that you want, you got to do it. So let's talk about it today. Grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's get started. By the way, before I share with you one of my most humiliating moments that led to this lesson in turning weaknesses into strengths, if you're interested in participating in the Sustainable 5K Month Brand Masterclass, I'm going to leave a link in the show notes for you to do so. It's $1 to register. I intend for it to be the best $1 you will ever invest in your online business, and hopefully the last masterclass that you need to take before you just start taking action and crushing it towards building sustainable income online. No cash grabs, building a base income that you can scale from so that you can feel regulated and safe and calm when you're building your business versus always looking for the next thing to try out and do. I'm going to equip you with what you need to know to build that type of safe, sustainable business online. All right, so this story that I'm about to tell you dates back to around 2013 when I was going to school to get my master's degree in educational leadership. I had taught special education for 8.5-ish years, and I went back to school because I wanted to be a program coordinator and then ultimately a director of special education for a school district. However, contrary to what you might believe based on what I do now, and also that I was a teacher for 8 years, my absolute biggest weakness and insecurity used to be speaking in front of peers. Yes, the exact thing that's now an absolutely crucial part of what I do, including landing and executing my first dream job as a special education program coordinator, which is what I was going to grad school to be able to do. But it was not always that way. Trust me, public speaking in front of peers used to be absolutely my Achilles heel. Firstly, I have pretty bad short-term memory, excellent long-term memory, but when it comes to speaking off the cuff, it just did not work for me. And also, I'm a total introvert. And part of that is, at least for me in my experience as an introvert, I like to think about things for a long time, and I really like to express myself in writing when I'm ready, but I definitely like to express myself verbally after I've had time to think. Speaking on demand is not natural to me. It is uncomfortable even today. But here's the thing. We all have weaknesses. However, we can't use those weaknesses as excuses excuses for why we can't do something when that something is something that we truly want. I know that was kind of a convoluted sentence, but hopefully this is going to make more sense as we talk about this. So back in 2013, at an evening grad school class, I was asked by my professor to give an on-the-spot elevator pitch in a hypothetical situation in front of everyone. I think it was something about pitching curriculum to a superintendent in said elevator. There was no time to meticulously prepare, which would have been the absolute only way I would have ever felt comfortable at that period doing this. And I wasn't the only one asked. Everyone else in my class was asked as well, but I was the only one that I know of who started sweating profusely and had my anxiety, which I now recognize also included some pretty crippling insecurity and perfectionism, was raging. And I felt paralyzed. I just sat there, and when it came to my turn, I legit shook my head no to my professor. She asked me directly again if I'd go up to the front and just go for it, and she was so kind, but I just couldn't do it. And I said I wouldn't. And it wasn't to be defiant. And honestly, I felt super humiliated to say no and just sit there frozen with my professor and all of my classmates looking at me, but I literally couldn't get myself to speak on demand in front of my peers. I could not do it. So I chose what I perceived to be the lesser humiliation. I couldn't find any words, but the one thing that I could find, I will tell you this, was tears. They started going down my cheeks as I watched the rest of my cohort deliver their pitches. Nobody was perfect. Some people were terrible because everyone's a student of the craft and everyone has strengths and weaknesses, but they at least put themselves in the arena, and that was the place to do that, a safe place to practice. And thinking back to that night and just sitting there, it was a total turning point. One of those, I don't know if you have these, I do every so often, a screw this moment where I just decided I'm not gonna let this limiting belief hold me back anymore. I need to figure this out. I need to conquer this. I cannot let this limiting belief that I can't speak off the cuff or in front of peers defeat me. If I want to be able to do that, which I knew would be a requirement to be excellent at what I wanted to do, I needed to get good at speaking the thoughts in my head and my heart that I knew were worth expressing. I just couldn't do it off the cuff yet. So long story short, and obviously it's now 2024, over a decade later, but that night I decided no more of this, screw this, I'm going to show up, I'm going to continue taking uncomfortable action, as uncomfortable as it could possibly be, which I should have done that night, learn strategies to help with my short-term memory, and do things that I sucked at anyway until, lo and behold, I think you can guess what happened. They actually became strengths. Ironically, or oddly enough, however you want to think of this, speaking has become a huge way that God has used me to influence and impact others online now. And those abilities have opened so many doors that never would have been if I hadn't hammered my weakness over time. I could have chosen to drop out of grad school or not pursue being a program specialist. I could have landed the job of program specialist and been kind of just weak sauce and not able to lead IEP meetings strongly, coach service providers and teachers in helping their students. I could have just kind of sucked at that, which I would have if I didn't continue to, over time, really hone in on practicing speaking my mind, speaking off the cuff, taking time to think so that I would be ready to respond. What's really, really cool though now to look back on that and see how far I've come. I mean, we're talking a decade from that night in class to now, and I still have room for growth in that area, but I can tell you that unstoppable confidence comes when you can look back and realize that you slayed your weakness. You really can actually do anything you set your minds and efforts to, even if it doesn't come naturally or easily. That's a lesson I wish I had grasped earlier in life. Most things worth attaining, most things that stick and stay, don't come easy. They don't happen overnight. They require a lot of effort. And those lessons have served me so much in building and rebuilding business, and also rebuilding and building in life. So what is your weakness? I want you to think about this because we all have weaknesses. I have plenty of them. Is it writing? Is it live video? Relationships? Closing sales? Productivity? Creating reels? Your marketing? Technology? Mindset? Confidence? What is it that you feel is a weakness? And I want you to know that it is worth allowing yourself to suck at something long enough to get good, if that's part of getting what you want and moving forward toward the impact and income that you want to make. There's no other way around than through. You have to go through your weakness and show up with that weakness in order for it to become a strength. There's no superlative award for being all around perfect. So I want to give you a few examples examples of weaknesses or really fears that I see commonly in female entrepreneurs that hold them back. So for example, one, technology and being intimidated by technology in some way, shape, or form, whether it's setting up a website, figuring out email marketing, creating digital products. These are things that female online entrepreneurs want to do and would need to figure out how to do in order to move forward, especially in 2024, with ease and flow eventually. But there's no way to just automatically get good at that. Let me tell you this. I bootstrapped everything. Back in 2016 when I started online, I learned all of this stuff myself. I was self-taught. Back in those days, I feel like it wasn't as readily available that you could buy courses and things like that. So I really did a lot of YouTube research and just scoured the internet for free resources and tutorials from the different technologies I was setting up, such as my email marketing and whatnot. But I would sit there for hours at a time trying to figure out things that now take me literally 10 seconds to do. That's also why I'm able to teach those things so well, because I've gone through and I've done the learning. I've gone through that messy middle, and now I can shortcut that with the skill sets that I have as an educator, but also in the skill sets in digital marketing that I had to figure out. So if technology and the use of technology is something that is a fear for you, don't use that as an excuse for not building your online presence. You can learn those things. You can outsource those things as you learn. That's a huge part of what I do, is working with clients one-on-one in a hybrid fashion so that they can expedite getting their brand and their online presence built while I can build out a lot of that tech stuff initially. But it is worth investing that time to learn and master the tools that you're going to need in the future to make it happen. Always keeping in mind that every single expert was once a beginner. I saw this graphic the other day that I wish I could show you right. I'll put it on the blog post, so if you're listening to this or you're reading the transcript on elevatedwithashley.com, you'll see it. Okay, I actually pulled it up right in front of me from my saved visuals within Instagram, and the top line says beginner, and then there are a list of X's and 2 check marks. So it goes X, 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 check, X, check. And then below that beginner line, it says master. And then there are 3 rows of X's and checks. So X, 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 check, X, check. Second line, check, X, 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 check, X, check. Third line, X, check, check, X, check, check, check. And then at the very bottom, it says the master has failed more than the beginner has tried. And that's period, end of story. Every single person who started out not knowing something had to go through those failures and sucking at something long enough to get good at it. That's just how things work, no matter what you're doing. All right, I've been going on and on, so I'm going to give you one other example that comes up all the time, which is having a lack of confidence when it comes to marketing. So a lot of women feel uncertain or uneasy about self-promotion. So promoting ourselves, promoting our businesses. They worry so much about being too salesy or not knowing the right strategies to attract customers or how to get their message across perfectly. Well, let me just tell you that that can be a good thing because you're self-aware, but that can also be a bad thing because I look back at when I started promoting products online, I was so salesy, but at least I was genuine. I didn't try to be salesy, I just was salesy. But now I'm not, I hope, as salesy as I was. I didn't know marketing. I had no marketing background. I just started sharing. And I think that was a good thing because I wasn't self-conscious about it. Now I'm like retroactively self-conscious because it was so cheesy, posting things like selfie of me with a banner saying join my team back in like the network marketing days. And just cringe as can be. So don't let a lack of confidence in marketing hold you back from sharing with the world. If you want to grow your business, if you want to impact more people, you have to push past the discomfort and you have to start small by sharing your story and your successes and your transformation on social media, and try not to worry about whether you're salesy or not. As long as you're being your genuine, authentic self, the people who you're meant to serve, the people who are waiting for you to show up, are not going to sit there in judgment that you're being salesy. But obviously, take advantage of marketing courses, join supportive communities, join my coaching membership if you would like to. I'd love to have you. Practice consistently. Taking action is going to bring you that clarity that you need and help you to realize, okay, what's resonating, what's not, what's coming across as salesy. Ask a coach for feedback. And over time, you're going to develop a marketing style that's going to be authentic and effective to you and help you to connect with your audience and drive sales. You will not do any of the above by sitting in a lack of confidence in marketing and not taking action. That will never work. Duh, obviously. The moral of the story is no matter matter how humiliating it may be. And I think the bigger lesson in humiliation is it was humiliating that I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't take a chance. What would have been less humiliating would be to actually try. But I learned a lesson from that, and I hope that you can have a lesser humiliating moment at very worst of showing up imperfectly. But honestly, relatable is the new inspirational these days anyways. Nobody wants to see someone just come out the gates perfect. That's weird. It doesn't make any logical sense. I do see people sometimes do that, and I think, the heck, is this genuine? Like, how did this person like rebrand into this entire other entity in like a month? That seems strange to me. Think about this. Who misses out if you don't capitalize on your strengths while also working on the weaknesses you need in order to get you to the impact and income that you want and that you will have in time? It might take a year. It might take a month. It might take 10 years. But I look back 10 years ago and it's like an upward trajectory, starting out from literally zero to now having a top 200 marketing podcast based on speaking to peers. That is crazy. And that's 10 years growth. Where could you be in 10 years if you hammer at a weakness that you know would be great to have as a strength? Because you can do it. Watch what happens over time. You're absolutely worth the investment. And then before I sign off, I mentioned this when I sent out an email around this topic. If productivity happens to be an area you would like to refine, that's an area of strength for me because it was a weakness that I worked on. And I have this very super useful tool that I use in my own practice and we use in the Maverick Society membership weekly co-working sessions. And I'm going to make it available to you for free by clicking the link in the show notes. It's the productivity matrix. So go below, or if you're listening to this on my website, you'll see below the productivity matrix. That's free for you. I hope it helps you if productivity is an area that you want to make into a strength. No secret that is a huge key to building a successful, sustainable, long-term brand and online business. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Until then, cheers to your impact. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a ton of value. And if you did, I would really appreciate if you would rate, subscribe, and review this podcast. It really helps push out the message that I have to share with other female entrepreneurs. Thank you so much.